sorry I'm a few minutes late. I just was rushing home from a client, and I actually am outside because I have to watch the fur kids. But today is week 2, so I hope you can hear me. It's kind of noisy. I apologize. I'm going to try and talk loud. But today is this is week 2 of Level Up, and you guys are doing great. Use True Coach to contact me with any kind of progressions or regressions you may need in terms of your programming. There's videos. Everything should have video, so if you have any problems, just feel free to message me and I can get on top of that right away. But going on to week 2, so last week was an introduction. If you watched the Nutritional Live, it was an introduction to HEC, hunger, energy, and cravings, and keeping your HEC in check. Basically, it's like a hormonal-based programming for your nutrition. So one of the questions we got from one of the gals in the group was, how do you make losing fat and keeping your HEC in check easier? And that's the holy grail question, isn't it? If we could figure that, how to make body fat loss easy, everybody would be able to do it, and the diet industry wouldn't be a billion-dollar industry, including the fat burning, fat loss supplement industry. So that question, though, is an excellent question because it goes back to when you start to find your sweet spot with things, whether it be your fitness routine, your nutrition routine, learning something new, a work project. Whenever you find your sweet spot and you get into your groove, doing that thing becomes easier. So for that question in terms of how do you make body fat loss easier, it will get easier once you find your sweet spot with keeping your HEC in check. It all goes back to the hunger, energy, cravings formula, which is based on your hormones. So rule of thumb for ladies is this: 2 to 3 weeks before your period, you should be eating more and exercising more, because your hormones spike throughout that 2 to 3 week period before your period starts. You have more of these hormones, which provides more energy, which means you can increase your activity and eat more. And then the week of your period and the week after, so the week of your cycle and that week after, that's when these hormonal panels are lower and your energy will be lower. So then if you should work out less, but you should also eat less. And with the whole HEC in check is, when you get to that point of eating less, exercising less, your hunger should be diminished because you're not working out as much. Your cravings may be spiked because of your cycle, when you start your period. But overall, you should be able to eat less and exercise less the week of your period and the week after with more ease because of just the hormonal shift. So if you are battling with cravings, go back and watch the first nutritional seminar that I posted in week 1, because I gave like 8 tips and 8 things you could do to help diminish your cravings or manage your cravings, including specific supplements you can take to help with that. So this week we're going to talk about food cycling. So that was my introduction to the next topic: the eat less, exercise less, the week of your period, the week after, the exercise more, eat more, the 2 to 3 weeks before your period starts. Is kind of like what is food cycling, where just periods of time we're exercising less and we're eating less, and periods of time where we're exercising more and we're eating more. Now, this is based upon a ton of research by Dr. Jade Teta and Keoni Teta, who does the book Lose Weight Now, based upon this hormonal cycling. So basically, it's the eat more, exercise more, eat less, exercise less is dependent upon your hormonal panel. So there is a rhyme to the reason. And so the quick and dirty of it was the 2 to 3 weeks before your cycle, the week of your cycle, and the week after. So why do we do this? Why do we do food cycling? Well, cycling the diet in a way, in this kind of way, what happens is, like when we eat less and we exercise less, we starve your fat, your body fat. When we exercise more and we eat more, we're actually feeding your lean muscle mass. This is the solution to help combat this yo-yo dieting, an up and down kind of like binge eat cycle dieting that is the billion-dollar diet industry now. In order to gain muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus, because muscle is a living organ, or a living organism in your body. It's living. It needs calories to thrive and survive. Whereas body fat doesn't need calories. We need to do the opposite. We need to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose fat. So again, that's why we cycle the diet by starving the fat, exercise less, eat less, and then feeding the lean, exercise more, eat more. So each of these different approaches, there's 2 different approaches, right? Creates this unique hormonal state that will help balance calories, and also, more importantly, balance your hormones in a way that enhances fat loss and muscle shaping or toning. So how does the question of our level up gal was, how do we make body fat loss easier, right? This is the solution, creating a unique hormonal state where we're balancing calories, we're balancing the hormones that enhances body fat loss and muscle shaping. So understanding your hormonal interactions, how your hormones operate, and how they influence your hunger, your energy, and your cravings, how they influence your heck, that is critical to understanding this new approach to body change. I know it's scary because we all, again, have been brainwashed into this eat less, exercise less diet mentality. This is opposite, okay? So this creates a fat burning process. So in order for fat to be lost by one particular area, a series of events needs to happen, right? So this is what it happens. Fat needs to be first released from a cell, from a fat cell. This process of fat breakdown and releasing is called lipolysis. So fat then, after it's released from a fat cell, the fat needs to be carried through your bloodstream and go and enter into another cell. So poor blood flow to one particular area in your body, that creates slow fat loss from that area. The fat needs to enter another cell in order to be burned. So there's a series of things can't happen. When you lose fat, you can't just lose the fat cell. The fat cell releases fat from its cell, it goes into your bloodstream in your body, and then it has to enter another cell for that fat to be lost. Okay? So now, a stubborn fat area, when we have stubborn areas, this is where there's poor blood flow. And then it takes longer for that fat in the bloodstream that's released to find another cell to enter because of that poor blood flow. That process of fat actually being burned when it leaves its cell, enters the bloodstream, enters another cell, that is called lipid oxidation. Okay? So why am I telling you that? That's like the science part of it. Because I think when we think of body fat loss, we always think of scale weight loss. Weight loss is scale loss, and it's not. Body fat loss doesn't necessarily mean scale weight loss, and scale weight loss doesn't necessarily mean body fat loss. Why? Because we already all know that body scale weight is influenced by water, if you're depleted, how much, where you are in your cycle, your hormonal cycle or your period, what you eat the day before, if you weigh naked, if you eat a lot of salt, are you stressed, are you overworked, undersleep. All these things affect weight. You could lose a lot of scale weight and lose absolutely no body fat. So that's why I'm explaining this to you, because body fat loss is sort of a complex series of chain reactions that needs to happen in order for body fat, true body fat, to be lost, right? So it's not just eat less, exercise more, and I'll lose body fat. No, body fat is, again, the body fat's released from a fat cell, it goes into your bloodstream, it has to travel and go into another cell for it to actually be burned. Where we get into a problem here is, like I said, the slow, stubborn fat, that process of the fat being released from its cell and finding another cell to be burned, that process sometimes is extra slow because of poor blood flow. So this is why it is important to try and figure out what scenario of eat less, exercise less, eat more, exercise more is best for your unique hormonal panel. So again, rule of thumb, start with 2 weeks before your period, exercise more, but make sure you're eating more, because if you're not eating more, you're back into that diet mentality of eat, exercise more, eat less. When you start your period that week and the week after, then you settle into an exercise less, eat less. But you have to make sure that you're exercising less. Don't exercise the same and eat less. That's not how it works. Your hormones are going to be affected by that. And again, you'll be right back into that eat less, exercise more mentality. So that's the main tutorial on food cycling and checking that out, trying to stagger that eat less, exercise less, eat more, exercise more approach. Based upon your cycle. Now, a couple of other myths. Carbs are the devil. You must always eat breakfast. You should only eat certain foods at certain times. Eating less and exercising more is the main golden rule for weight loss. No, these are four common food/fitness myths that I want you to get out of your head. Carbs are important for performance and energy. Carbs have a place in your eating pattern, especially if you're working out hard, or working out for a specific goal in terms of trying to do a headstand, trying to do a pull-up, trying to run a certain pace. Carbs are energy. They are not the devil. Second myth, you must always eat breakfast. No, hunger, energy, cravings. Listen to how you feel. If you are intermittent fasting and you feel like you're white knuckling it to make a certain hour mark, like a 12 hour, a 14 hour, a 16 hour, you need to eat. You can't do that. You need to listen to how your hunger in that hunger energy craving scale is speaking to you. So for you, maybe 12 hours intermittent fasting is your sweet spot. Maybe not. In any event, you just got to figure out that if you don't feel like eating breakfast and you're not hungry at all, don't force it. If you're hungry for breakfast at 12 o'clock, noon, don't force it. Eat it. You don't have to force it. Listen to your cues. The third thing, you should only eat certain foods at certain times. Like, carbs at night is bad. I don't want to eat a heavy meal before any kind of weird time rules. That's also a myth, because it just goes back to eating to keep your heck in check. So based upon how you feel, if you're a more evening or late night eater, that's totally fine. It's all going back to that hunger, energy, cravings calculation. And then the last one is what we've been talking about for the second week now, where eating less and exercising more is the route to weight loss. Again, that is just total diet mentality. And if that was the case, if that was like the golden holy grail, then we would all be able to lose weight easily. So I want you to think about those 4 different types of myths and get that out of your radar. So the fix for cravings, so when we have cravings, you should already know that your heck is out of whack or your heck is out of check. So what are some things you can do if your hunger, energy, craving seems to be out of whack? So here are 5 things that we're going to do to end with for today's talking about heck, why is it important? How do we lose body fat? We've already talked about some common food and fitness myths, and now how to fix or hacks for when your heck is out of whack. Number 1, add more protein, more fiber, and more water. That's number 1. More protein, more fiber, more water. So like lean protein and veggies, up it. Number 2, that doesn't work. Add more fat. Nuts, avocado, good oils, maybe a fat coffee or bulletproof coffee. Add more fat. Number 3, add starch and subtract fat. So if you don't feel like adding more fat, but your hunger, energy, cravings is all crazy, then add more carbs, but eliminate the fat. So don't add both. Don't add more fat and add more carbs. You add either or. You add more fat or you add more starch and you minus the fat. Number 4, It's if you've tried all of the above and your hunger, energy, cravings is still out of whack, then you add both. You can add the starch and the fat together. And then the fifth tip is adding 1 or 2 snacks between your meals. And one or two snacks between meals would be a combination of this: more protein and fiber, or a fatty snack, or a starch and fatty snack. Okay, so in that order, you would go down the order. Like say you're having crazy cravings. First, you start with adding more protein, more fiber, drinking water. You wait, see how you feel. Cravings still crazy, then go to number 2, add more fat, maybe add a bulletproof coffee, wait a little bit, figure it out, reassess. How are your hunger, energy, and cravings? Still out of whack, then go to number 4. Number 3, add more starch, and just starch. Piece of bread, a scoop of rice, a cup of oatmeal, and wait. Cravings still out of whack? Add both starch and fat. Now you can add nuts to your oatmeal, add peanut butter to your oatmeal, have a PB&J. And then the 5th one, if none of that works, then you add 1 or 2 full snacks between meals. So you eat a protein, fiber, veggie snack, or you add a starch fat snack, but you add 1 or 2 snacks between meals. Okay? So next week we're going to talk about steps that you can do to hack a habit you're trying to change, in terms of habits, in terms of maybe your snacking or your food habit. And we're going to go a little bit more into detail about the fix for your cravings and a 4-step process on how to identify your cravings, and kind of educating you on how sometimes your cravings come about of situations, like, or environmental habits or situational habits create cravings in your subconscious that you don't even realize. And then we go through these steps for fixing your cravings, how you see that a series of things you do leading up to that craving plays a big part in having that craving. And if we can intervene and hack into some of those steps that you're doing, how that habit, that craving at the end can change. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know below. Again, I'm always taking feedback and questions on topics that you may be interested week to week. And I'll see you guys next week, Friday, here at noon. Have a great day.